quickly, we're going to go over all of this. Just, a simple, easy life. Yeah. In other words, we have leapt into our zone of genius. And that really is our God zone, that divine zone. That's what our zone of genius truly is. Following the profound guidance of Gay Hendricks in his book, The Big Leap, which we have been talking about every day, not every day, I feel like it's been every day, but it's every Sunday in May, and we're finishing it up today. Expressing our genius is expressing God, expressing good, where we are productive, happy, and living on purpose. We are living on purpose and a blessing to the world. This series of talks has been very impactful for me, and I know for a lot of other people. And once you have broken free of the upper limit problem that we talked about, the upper limit problem, or we're even aware of it, because that's the first step, becoming aware of that we even have an upper limit. That's the inner thermostat that only allows us to enjoy so much good in our lives. We kind of had that set since very early on. And once you get clarity about that genius zone, your job is to learn to live in this zone for as often as you can remember to live in it. Hendricks describes this as a delicate tightrope walk, which eventually gets easier as you master the skills required to keep your balance in your new environment. Because it's a whole new way of showing up, a new way of being. And what we have this morning is some shortcuts to offer you. And we're going to learn by the theory of, not that it's a theory, but trial and error. And the trial and error have been the experiences of hundreds of people that Gay Hendricks has counseled over the years when he put this book together. And I'm sure we're all aware of the power of trial and error, correct? Mm-hmm. One time an interviewer, this is interesting, asked a successful businessman to what he attributed his success. The businessman replied, 2 words, right decisions. The interviewer asked, how do you make right decisions? Businessman, 1 word, experience. Interviewer, how do you get experience? And the businessman, 2 words, wrong decisions. That's how we learn. We learn from the decisions that we make if we're aware. Otherwise, we just keep repeating the same mistakes over and over again. So this morning we will learn from those who have gotten experience. Our 3 shortcuts to living in our zone of genius, God zone, are these. Using the ultimate success mantra, unleashing the power of an enlightened no, and something I've been doing all day today, living in Einstein time. That's what we're going to discuss this morning. As students of New Thought, Science of Mind, we all know the power of our thought and how it produces effects in our lives. We have in consciousness, what we hold in consciousness manifests in our lives in one way or another. And we all kind of know that if we've been around these teachings long enough, that we create those experiences. And what we consciously focus on grows. So what are we focusing on? Right? Most of the time we're not even aware. So let's use the way life works to help us live in our zone of genius. So I'm going to quote Hendricks, Gay Hendricks here. He says, the ultimate success mantra is a comprehensive intention you use to center yourself in your zone of genius. It is a set of instructions for your conscious and subconscious mind to chew on, designed to inform all of your actions and decisions. If you use, he says, the ultimate success mantra as instructed, your life will gradually conform to the comprehensive intention contained within it. I want you to mount a gentle but unstoppable offense against old conditioning. And the universal success mantra is the best way I found to do that. You're probably all thinking, so what is it already? You know, what is this success mantra? So, here it is. I expand in abundance, success, and love every day as I inspire those around me to do the same. I expand in abundance, success, and love every day as I inspire those around me to do the same. Even if we just use that, I expand in abundance, success, and love. Just using that every day, over and over again. And really believing it, because the thought process is being affected here. When we have a strong mantra, it is the same as having a thought. So the subconscious mind is going to clear itself to make way for that new thought, which is this success affirmation. How simple, yet how profound. This mantra directly counters whatever may be within your subconscious. Putting up, we talked about it in the last week or two, those barriers, the barriers to your genius zone. And this mantra is like an antidote to years of conditioning and programming that convinced you that you don't really deserve success. I mean, it's in there somewhere, sometimes with some people, not everyone, but I think a whole lot of us. Here are two ways that you can use it. One is meditation, which we're going to do a very, very brief little meditation at the end. And the other is in your daily life. Write this down, post it, put it up on the walls with the sticky pads. However, just so that you remember it, I expand every day. I expand. And the second tool for today is an enlightened no. This is a shortcut to living in that zone of genius that we keep talking about. And it's very simple concept, but not always so easy to implement. Sometimes it's a little tricky. You pronounce an enlightened no when you turn something down that doesn't fit into your zone of genius. It's called an enlightened no because you're saying no in service to a bigger yes. You're saying no to something that frees up that energy of what we call time to a bigger yes. Because you've chosen to focus on activities that are clearly in that zone, and you know it because you feel so much peace. You feel so aligned with the infinite good of God. It's always there, but you feel it. You feel comfortable. You feel happy. We could all benefit from taking a careful look at the number of things we say yes to and things that do not clearly fit in our zone, even if they seem beneficial for others and for other reasons. Your requests can eat up a great deal of energy that could be better expressed and invested in your divine zone. Let's call it that, your God zone, your divine zone. Each time you say an enlightened no to something that does not serve you, you build a stronger foundation for yourself in that zone. And that's what I mean, it's like, I say, it feels like the same things every week, but it's like I need the reminder every week. So, you know, I'm sure if I need it, you need it too, because we're all in this human experiment or experience together. Maybe we're having different experiences, but basically, they're all the same. They basically are. And I remember saying that in line no over 11 years ago, that I had to say no and leave my former spiritual community that I was a part of for 17 years. And that was really hard. But by saying that no, I made way to say yes to Joyful Gathering Spiritual Center. I mean, you see how that's just an example of no to this, even though it's hard, and yes to an even better, I guess, for myself, way of showing up in my zone of genius, my God zone. So that brings us into living in Einstein time, which is so interesting, especially after the morning I've already had. And I'm not a morning person, so that is really interesting. So, living in Einstein time, finally, for your life to work harmoniously, you need to develop a harmonious relationship with time. Creating time for the full expression of your genius, of your divinity. Old paradigm would be in Newtonian time. This paradigm says that there is only a finite amount of time, and it must be carefully portioned out so that there will be enough of it to do the things we need to do. That's why we have watches. Oh my God, you ever leave? I'm a watch person. And I remember years ago, many years ago, when I didn't wear a watch, even before children. And I just lived, right? That's Einstein time. This is Newtonian time where, oh, it's this time. Yeah, I'm going to get into it. But that's what it is. This watch represents Newtonian timing. This paradigm looks at time as existing outside of ourselves, separate from us, separate, and assumes that there is either a scarcity of time, which leads us to this uncomfortable feeling of time urgency. Anyone ever get that? Ah, yeah. Gotta get it done. We gotta get over there. We gotta get done. We're gonna be late. We're gonna be late. It's my biggest thing. We're gonna be late. Inside, which leads us, and sometimes we don't have enough on the clock, and you know people like this, and they show up late, or they just get bored, frustrated, or procrastinate. I mean, too much time. It's like, oh, I have time to just hang out. And so there's a fine balance in Einstein time. Whichever way you have thought about time, just join the club, because I'm really there with you. And it's really, I think, a very large one. It's a very large kind of, it's not a barrier, but it's something to be aware of. That there is hope. Because while the Newtonian view is where most of us start, that's why when we say go with the flow, that's what it means, not Newtonian. It means the relative time, Einstein time. Go with the flow. It feels better just saying it. Oh, I'm gonna go with the flow today. It's not like, oh my God, I forgot this, I gotta do this, and I don't have enough time. That's the lack. That's the lack, time lack, if you will. And when we realize who we really are as an expression of the source of all there is, and there are infinite possibilities always available to us, then the source of time is within us. It's within us. It is an effect, right? Because we know that there is no time and space in the divine. It's Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes wrote that. There's no time or space, and we think, well, what are they talking about? But that's what we believe. So that would be Einstein time. We create the time. The shift to Einstein time takes place the moment you embrace one profoundly simple truth. You are where time comes from. It doesn't come from outside of you. You are. It doesn't come from the clock. That's outside of you. You are where time comes from. Have you ever really noticed really busy people? We say this all the time, but they seem to get so much accomplished. And we wonder, how the heck did they do all of that? in the same hour that I just did this. How did they do all of that? Well, they are operating in Einstein time. So say this after me. I am where time comes from.
I am where time comes from.
I have the power to make as much time as I want.
I have the power to make as much time as I want.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Have you ever thought that you were running really, really late for something, and when you arrive, you're the first one there? Happens to me all the time. I'm one of those people. I'm always early because I'm always thinking I'm late. It's all happening within me, not outside. That would be an example of jumping into Einstein time. You might be driving to a destination, and this has happened. I know that you have to agree with me. You get there, and you have no idea how you got there. You're like, I just went like 10 miles. I went through all those lights that I don't remember, and I'm here. And you don't recall a single thing of how you got there. Anyone? Yeah, a few people.
Saturday night.
So I have a story from Greg Braden book, and he tells a story about arriving, this is just an example, in a bus from Mount Sinai to Cairo, Egypt. That should have taken several hours, but actually only took a little bit more than half of that. Though the distance between Mount Sinai and Cairo had not changed, it didn't change, right? Our experience, he says, of time while traveling the distance had. It was recorded on the wristwatches of every military man, armed guard, passenger on the bus. It was as if our memories of the day in the presence of one another had somehow been squeezed into an experience a fraction of the time expected. Where was the rest of our time? Clearly, we were not aware of the phenomena when it was occurring. The questions are, how did it happen and why? Perhaps herein we find the clue. In our innocence of anticipating the experiences as if within the pyramids, because they were going to the pyramids, and speaking of those experiences as if they were already there inside those ancient chambers, our awareness had shifted from how long the trip would be to what it felt like to be inside the pyramids. So again, when we're doing anything that we truly love to do, I don't care what it is, if you're an artist, if you're someone that loves to clean a house, time just doesn't even exist. You're just like in the middle of living life, right? So it can make time seem really irrelevant. So quit thinking of time as out there. Take ownership of time within. Acknowledge that you are where it comes from. We are the mini source of all that is, right? The greater I am source is the divine. The first way to do this is to go on a complaint diet. I'm sure some of you have heard of a complaint diet. Well, this will be a time diet. Notice in your conversations, how often do you say things like, I wish I had time to stop and chat, but I'm in a real hurry here, right? Where did the time go to? There simply aren't enough hours in the day. If I had only gotten another hour's sleep, that would be me. I don't have time to do that right now. These are the things that we are saying over and over again. We're saying them out loud and we're thinking them. I don't have enough time. I'm right in there. This is a good exercise to become aware of that mind chatter and self-talk. Each of those statements contains an overt or covert complaint. There's a complaint in there. making us the victim of time. Time, we become the victim of time. And I have recently used every single one of those that I have just written down here. I mean, it's really interesting how we are programmed. The message that time is out there and that there isn't enough of it is all false because it is within us. We go with the flow. What does that mean? The exact opposite. The moment you stop complaining about there's not enough time and start realizing you are the producer of time, your zone of genius has a greater area in which to roam. It might not seem like all of this goes together, but it truly does. Because we have so many different distractions and these upper limit problems that we called the barriers last week. So living in your zone of genius is where you are meant to be. You're meant to be living a life in the flow. Having happiness, you can't be happy and rushed at the same time, I don't think. Maybe you can. I never really thought about it. I'll have to think about that during the week. But, I mean, when you're really rushing, to me, I'm stressed. That's how I feel. I feel stressed. I don't feel happy. So it's where you are the happiest, when you're in that flow, and when you're in that Einstein. It's all relative. Time is relative. It's where you are blessed. And it is where your gifts and talents will bless the world, using our mantra again. So I want to end our time together today and our time spent on taking this big leap by returning to the ultimate success mantra. Hendrik said to use it in those two ways, in your meditation, and write it down and put it up on sticky notes all over. So what I want us to do right now is kind of do this very quick little meditation. So just, if you want to close your eyes, please do. Just take a really nice deep breath with me. And I'm going to repeat the mantra again. I expand in abundance, success, and love every day as I inspire those around me to do the same. I expand in abundance, success, and love every day. It just feels good. Just breathe that in. And exhale that out. And you start your day off that way. Or, everything I do is in divine right order. For I know that I am co-creating my day with the divine. Okay. So, I want to end this talk. I would like to end this talk, but you can see how you can bring that into just even for a minute or two, just to get centered, as I call it, just to get centered, because sometimes we're running all over the place, just to get centered. So this is a quote from Ernest Holmes from A Science of Mind magazine many years ago. He wrote this: if there is an infinite creative intelligence which makes things out of itself, by itself becoming the thing that it makes, then the creative genius of universal mind is also the creative genius of its individuation, which is what I am. Each and every one of us is an individuation or an individualization of the great I am. So we have within us the capacity to create a life that is in the flow, that is filled with that happiness, that peace, that love that's in our mantra. And so as we become more and more in the flow and become aware of that mind chatter, it leads us, we can leap into our zone of genius, which is our alignment with the divine, in other words. And that's where we really want to be living a fulfilling, successful, and inspiring life. I would think that that's what we all want. It's what I want. So it is, my friends. And so it is.